The DA has an electoral leadership competition. No, not a competition, a conference, although it is quite competitive. Or it might be quite competitive, or it might not be competitive at all. We don't know. In April, so in 2 months' time, February, March, 3 months' time, we will know whether John Steenhuisen has survived or whether he has been displaced, and we will be frantically analysing whether his staying or his going will have a beneficial or a disadvantage impact on the DA's performance in the local government elections in November. I was saying yesterday, on the basis of all of the local government the by-elections that have happened, that the sort of feeling amongst the analytical community that the ANC is going to really get pounded even more in the local government elections than it was in the national elections. Those by-election results seem to suggest that the analysis is spot on there. And who's going to take over from Cyril Ramaphosa in however many months' time? Is it going to be Paul Mashatile? Please not. Is it going to be Fikile Mbalula? Please not. Might it be Patrice Motsepe? He has said, no, I'm not interested. But his name continues to be around. And when polls are done, his candidature is very well received by people outside of the ANC, less well received by people inside the ANC, who seem to favour, for reasons unknown to me, Fikile Mbalula, but he's still above the likes of Mashatile and others. Ferial Haffejee, senior journalist at Daily Maverick. Hello, Ferial.
Good afternoon, John.
You were writing about the appearance of these T-shirts, PM 2027 and PM 27 Savumelana. How much significance do we read into those?
You know, I was at university when Patrice Motsepe was there a long time ago, and he was always, like an engineering student, fairly apolitical, I remember. And this was in the mid-'80s when campuses were on fire. It was the height of the last part of the struggle. So when he said he wasn't interested, I remembered that, and I thought, I think this guy really isn't interested, until I saw the Sunday World story. So once T-shirts start getting printed, then things get a little more serious. Now, this may just be zealous campaigners like Bejani Chauke, who was a leading light behind the CR17 campaign, or maybe there is something happening, because when you go to ANC conferences, Patrice Motsepe always puts in a showing, as he did at the National General Council. Although if you look at how he donates money, he does so across the political spectrum, and he does so proportionately, which is how businesses should do it.
We don't know, and it would be interesting to know whether he was made aware of and approved the printing and distribution of these T-shirts, or whether it was done to drive him into a corner from which he could only emerge by saying, oh, all right, you can put my name forward.
I think that the latter would be hard. I'm keen to hear what he says when the news does get out more widely. And perhaps like this is just campaigners trying the first batch, showing what it might look like. I think there's a lot of reporting to be done. Quite difficult to do so, but I think that's our work for the next few months. Certainly not to engage in uninformed speculation. But when I saw the printing of the T-shirts in Sunday World, I thought, this is getting a little more serious now.
And he has, I was going to say no governance experience, but that's not entirely true. He has corporate governing experience through African Rainbow Minerals, and I suppose he has experience in one of the most difficult rings around, which is the Confederation of African Football. So he's not totally unused to being in a position where important decisions have to be made.
I think his work at CAF is, if he decide to stand, I think that's going to be the biggest calling card. Obviously, also being the owner of Sundowns, his popularity in the world of football is probably something that has driven him up those popularity rankings when Ipsos asked the question of who would make a good president of the ANC. when Cyril Ramaphosa leaves at the end of 2027. He's got a much bigger profile than the other party candidates do. And I was also reading today,
yes.
I must tell you, that his fortunes have really grown significantly because of commodity prices. He's a very successful businessman, specifically in mining. So his fortune, I was reading on African Billionaires, has really increased in the past year.
Your political instincts have been forged by daily immersion in the world of politics for 30 plus years. I'm sorry to put that awful number on the table. What does your political instinct tell you that it's an interesting idea, but come on, John, ain't going to happen? Or, I think it actually might.
I think right now, it's an interesting idea, but it's not going to happen. The field is wide open. There's a big lobby growing that the ANC must put its money where its mouth is and have a woman president. So you'll see 2 women who've raised their hands. There are ambitious younger politicians like Kgosi and Cyril Ramaphosa, who I think is also going to put up his hand. So I think it's very early in the race, and right now I would say that PM27 is exuberant lobbyist rather than the candidate himself.
And Johannesburg, Ferial, the city which you refuse to stop loving. And I really enjoy the way that the Daily Maverick is concentrating on Johannesburg. It's not a slap in the face for the other cities, but it is an acknowledgement that Johannesburg matters. What happens in Johannesburg matters nationally. It matters sub-regionally. And I was reading today that Herman Mashaba is being pushed to stand for the mayoralty. So we've got Helen Zille, who is, I think, with 100% certainty going to be the DA's candidate. Whoever's going to be the ANC's candidate, is it going to be Dada Morero, or is the person who's taken over from his head of the ANC in Gauteng going to sneak in there? And Herman Mashaba. I'm not a great fan of Action SA. I'm not a great fan of Herman Mashaba. And I think to myself, if he does stand and he wins, he won't be in the job for long. And I do wonder about all you lovely Johannesburg-loving people and the choices you will have to make at the end of the year.
So we've got a 5-candidate race so far with 2 people from the ANC, Dada Morero and Loyiso Masuku. There's a looming motion of no confidence against Dada Morero, which is like the gazillionth one almost. So that race, I think, is probably going to be the defining campaign of the local government election, which Hajra Omarjee has now given us a date range, November 2nd to Jan 31, probably a November date, late November is when we're going to hold those elections. And I think that Herman Mashaba's team really wants him to enter the race here, because you'll remember he was the only politician who managed to get ANC voters in Soweto to vote for a different party. So that's why his candidacy would be really significant.
Ferial, thanks very much for talking to us. Love that you make yourself available on a Friday afternoon when probably all you want to do is go home and relax. Ferial Haffejee, senior journalist at Daily Maverick.